They always say the world is cruel, but they never tell you when the knife will fall. They never tell you who will hold it. It wasn't a stranger. It was the ones who knew my name, the ones I laughed with, the ones I would have burned for. They smiled as they cut, and I didn't bleed red. I bled trust. I bled silence. I bled every truth I once believed in. They didn't stab to kill. No, they stabbed to watch, to see if I would scream, to see if I would beg. I didn't. I swallowed the scream. I buried it so deep, even I couldn't hear it anymore, and they mistook that silence as surrender. They thought I was done, finished, defeated. But let me ask you this. Have you ever watched a storm build behind still skies? It's not the thunder you should fear. It's the silence before it. They wanted to ruin me gently, with whispers, with laughter behind my back, with smiles that tasted like poison. They didn't come at me with war. They came with pity, with the kind of sympathy that cuts deeper than hate. And they called it love. They called it help. But it was always a leash, a cage, a coffin with compliments carved on the inside. And I was supposed to say thank you. I was supposed to kneel, to apologize for existing too loudly, for dreaming too boldly, for refusing to break quietly. But I didn't break. Not the way they wanted. I cracked. I shattered inside. I drowned in my own thoughts. But I never gave them the show, never gave them the satisfaction. You see, when the world drew first blood, they thought I would stay down. But that was their mistake, their first, their final. Because something awoke in me that day. Not revenge, not rage, not even hatred. Something colder, something sharper, something that remembers. They think they won because I went silent. They think they buried me beneath their laughter. But I was only waiting, watching, becoming. And now I am not the same. I am not what they left behind. I am not the scar they thought they left on me. I am the wound that never healed for them. Every step I take is a reminder. Every breath I breathe is defiance. And this smile is the echo of every blade they used. The proof that I outlived their cruelty. The curse that follows them. So remember this, they struck first. But I will be the last thing they ever forget. They didn't just want me to fail. They wanted me to stay a failure. To shrink, to fold, to behave. They dressed it up in concern. Soft words hiding sharp blades. It's for your own good. You shouldn't aim too high. You're just not like them. No chains, just expectations. Silent, subtle, suffocating. I was buried alive beneath the weight of what they thought I should be. Polite, predictable, forgettable. Every time I showed a spark, they poured cold water over it. Every time I dared to breathe fire, they told me to smile and sit down. They weren't afraid of my failure. They counted on it. What scared them was the thought of me rising. Because if I rose, I'd make their comfort look like cowardice. I'd make their mediocrity impossible to ignore. So they built walls around me and called it safety. Told me to settle. Told me to compromise. Told me to stop dreaming before the world crushed me. But dreams don't die easy in the heart of the defiant. And I wasn't born to fit their mold. I was born to break it. They expected silence, but I listened. They expected obedience, but I watched. They expected surrender, but I learned. Learned how they move, how they manipulate, how they wrap chains in kindness and call it love. And I stayed quiet, not because I agreed, but because I was studying the map out of their maze. Their voices circled like vultures. You'll never make it. Don't embarrass yourself. No one's going to care. They said it with smiles, with pats on the back, with the gentle poison of doubt. But I heard the truth behind the words. They were scared, scared that I might prove them wrong, scared that I might become what they never had the courage to be. So I stopped asking for permission. I stopped waiting for applause. I stopped explaining the fire in my chest to people who only ever played with ashes. I decided to become the storm they swore would never come. They thought I'd stay buried, But I was planting myself. They thought I'd rot, but I was growing roots. Every insult became a shovel, every rejection a crack of light through the soil. And when they turned away, thinking I'd faded, that's when I began to rise. Slow, silent, certain. They expected a shadow, but I became a wildfire. So let them keep their expectations. Let them sleep in the safety of their low standards, because I'm done being the version of me that made them comfortable. I'm done dimming myself so they don't feel blind. They told me to stay in my place, so I built a new one, on higher ground, on my own terms, with my own hands. This isn't rebellion, this is resurrection. And the next time they look at me, when they squint through the glare of everything they said I couldn't be, they'll realize they didn't bury me. They planted their own regret. They thought I was finished, because I didn't scream, because I didn't fight back the way they expected, because I chose silence over spectacle. They mistook it for surrender. Fools. They measured strength by noise. They counted victories in volume. But they never understood that some storms don't announce themselves. They just arrive. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding. In the stillness they feared. I was sharpening every shattered piece of me. Every silent night, every unanswered insult. Every time I smiled and walked away. I wasn't avoiding war. I was becoming it. You see, when I stopped explaining myself, I started understanding myself. When I stopped begging to be seen, I began to see through them, and what I saw was weakness, not in me, in them. They needed my reaction to feel powerful. They needed my rage to validate their cruelty. And when I gave them nothing, they had nothing. Let that sink in. Their whole plan depended on me falling apart in public, crying, exploding, proving them right. But I gave them silence, and silence is a mirror. They looked into it, and for the first time they saw the emptiness of what they did. No chaos, no collapse, just calm, the kind that terrifies those who live off your pain. They called it defeat, but it was discipline. They called it weakness, but it was rebirth. I was peeling off the version of me they created, suffocating it, burying it, and when I rose again, I didn't come back to fit in. I came back to take over. You don't owe the world a response. You don't owe your enemies a reaction. Let them choke on your silence. Let them spiral in confusion. Because the most dangerous thing you can do is nothing. Let them wonder. Let them wait. Let them sit in the wreckage of their own assumptions. This silence, it's not the absence of noise. It's the presence of power. And if they're smart, they'll start to fear it. Because I'm not coming with warnings anymore. I'm not coming with explanations. No mercy. No disclaimers. No need to be understood. They had their chance to hear me scream. Now all they'll hear is silence. And that silence will be the loudest sound they ever regret. They thought silence meant surrender. That because I spoke no rage, I felt no fire. But oh, if they only knew. While they celebrated my absence, I was building something beneath the ashes. They thought I was gone, lost, defeated. But I was only buried. And I learned to grow underground. I fed on every lie they told about me. Every whisper, every mockery. They threw dirt, and I drank it like water. Because I knew what they didn't. That pressure makes roots dig deeper. And I was becoming unstoppable. I didn't scream, didn't plead, didn't curse their names. No, I studied. I sharpened. I suffered quietly until suffering became strength. While they laughed, I learned. While they pointed, I prepared. While they tried to erase me, I carved my name into the bones of my resolve. They thought they extinguished me, but in truth, they lit the fuse. And I burned slowly, controlled, precise, until I became wildfire. Every betrayal became kindling, every scar a match, and I lit myself from within. Not to be seen, not to be saved, but to become the very thing they feared. I no longer craved their understanding. I no longer waited for closure. Because the closure was this: I survived. And I made survival an art form. They wanted me to crawl. I chose to vanish. They wanted to watch me break. I let them believe they had one, because the sweetest revenge is patience, the deadliest weapon, silence. In the dark, I remembered every face, every smirk, every back turned when I needed a hand. And I didn't forget. I just waited for the fire to grow, waited until I didn't need to raise my voice, because my presence would be louder than their noise. They can't stop what they can't see, and they never saw this coming. They never saw me coming. They thought I faded, but I was only transforming. Molten, measured, merciless. I wasn't healing. I was hardening, because healing implies softness, and there is nothing soft left in me. Only steel, only flame, only the quiet rage of someone who rose alone. I was not saved. I was not rescued. I was reborn through every night I wanted to give up, and DID in single quotes T. You want to know what changed? Everything. Because now I owe them nothing, no explanations, no justifications, no forgiveness. They tried to destroy me with shadows, and I became the storm that devours the sun. I do not forget. I do not flinch. I do not bow. I rise. I reign. I burn. And every step I take from here on is powered by the fire I fed in secret. They told me I should cry, that the pain I carried was too heavy to hold with dry eyes, that the betrayal deserved tears, that the silence demanded sobs. But I didn't cry. I smiled, not because it didn't hurt, not because I was whole, but because they expected me to bleed for them, and I refused to feed the ones who cut me. You see, crying would have given them proof that they mattered, proof that they still had power over me, proof that I was still theirs to break. So I smiled. With blood in my mouth, I smiled. With rage in my bones, I smiled. With the ashes of my past still clinging to me like smoke, I smiled. Because sometimes a smile is sharper than a scream. Sometimes it's not peace, it's war. They wanted to see me crawl, to see me crack, to hear me beg for mercy they never intended to give. But I gave them none of that. No collapse, no apology, no confession of weakness. Only a smile, cold, measured, merciless. It wasn't a smile of healing. It was the grin of a monster they created, a reflection of their own cruelty wrapped in elegance. Because I learned, if they expect tears, you give them teeth. If they offer pain, you offer silence. And if they try to bury you, you bloom in defiance. They don't know what to do with strength wrapped in softness. They don't know how to fight someone who doesn't flinch. So I became unreadable, untouchable, unforgivable. And they hated it. Oh, how they hated it. They whispered, "How can they smile after everything?" And I whispered back, "Because I lived, and you didn't kill me." That smile, it was a funeral for their control. Every time I wore it, another piece of their revenge turned to dust. They gave me their worst, and I made it look beautiful. Not because I healed, not because I forgave, but because I turned pain into armor and wore it like art. So no, I didn't cry. I smiled. And that smile, it became the ghost that follows them, the proof they never won, the wound that won't close. And that is enough for me. Let them wonder how I survived. Let them replay it again and again, looking for the crack that never came. Because when I should have cried, I smiled, and they broke instead. They thought they won. They saw silence and called it surrender. They saw stillness and thought it meant defeat. But I wasn't quiet because I was broken. I was quiet because I was building. They had their victory parade too soon. Celebrated a funeral where I hadn't died. Laughed over ashes that weren't mine. To them, I was done. Gone. Forgotten. But the truth, that was the day I started breathing differently. They didn't know that every name they called me was a brick I laid beneath my feet. Every shove, every lie, every betrayal was weight I carried, until I was strong enough to hurl it all back. They tried to bury me under shame, but I wore it like armor. They whispered behind closed doors, So I learned to speak with silence. They turned their backs. So I walked forward alone, unshaken, unforgiving. And then, one day, I smiled. Not because I forgot, not because I forgave, but because I no longer cared to bleed where they could see it. That smile, it wasn't peace, it wasn't healing, it was proof that I lived, that I endured, that their revenge didn't land the way they prayed it would. They waited to see me crawl, but I stood. They waited to see me rage, but I grinned. They wanted my pain to be loud, public, desperate, but I let it burn quietly until it became power. And on the day I walked past them, head high, scars glowing like wall paint, they didn't know what to say. Because revenge only works when the target stays small, when the victim plays the part, when the wound stays open. But I closed mine with fire, and now every step I take is a nail in the coffin of their intentions. Their revenge collapsed not in a fight, but in my calm, my grace, my silence. They planned my ending. I rewrote it. And now they can't look at me without remembering how hard they tried to destroy what still breathes. Let that haunt them. Let my survival echo louder than their plans. Let my smile burn longer than their rage. This is what happens when the villain they tried to create decides to write their own legend and smiles while doing it. Let them watch. Let them sit in the ruins of the story they tried to write for me and stare at the ending they never saw coming. They thought they buried me in silence, but I was just planting roots, growing in the dark, learning the language of pain and turning it into poetry. I was never gone. I was becoming. Every whisper against me, fuel. Every betrayal, blueprint. Every attempt to break me, a hand chiseled into the marble of my becoming. You see, they were so busy trying to destroy me, they never realized they were helping me evolve. They called me weak, so I let their voices echo until my own voice swallowed them whole. They painted me as fragile, so I became the storm they couldn't predict. Not loud, not messy, just inevitable. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I didn't even fight back the way they hoped. I smiled, and that was enough to haunt them, because now I walk with the weight of survival on my shoulders and the grace of someone who doesn't need to prove a damn thing. I've become everything they feared, and I did. It's silently. No revenge, no spectacle, just a rise so terrifying it left their hate useless. Now they watch. They watch the same person they tried to erase walk taller than ever. They hear my name in rooms they were never invited to. They see me glow in the places they swore I'd never reach. Let them sit in their silence. Let them choke on their regrets. Let them drown in the ashes of their plans. Because I'm done explaining. I'm done defending. I am not what they did to me. I am what I chose to become in spite of it. And that is what breaks them. Not my revenge, not my anger, but my existence. My evolution. My smile. Let them watch what I've become, because they will never become it. Never. They thought I would come for blood, that I'd rage, destroy, scream like the wounded thing they left behind. But I did something far worse. I healed, and I smiled. Not because I forgave them. No, not because I forgot. But because nothing haunts a monster like the sound of your peace. You see, they built their entire revenge on my collapse. They wanted tears, not triumph. They wanted scars that bled, not ones that shined. They wanted me hollow, broken, crawling. But I stood, and when I did, they flinched. Because their plan didn't die with my fight, it died with my calm. I gave them nothing. No rage, no reaction, just a quiet grin. And it tore them apart. Let them remember that. Let it echo louder than screams. Let it rot in the back of their minds that after everything they did, all I gave them was a smile. Because that smile, it wasn't kindness. It was a weapon. Sharp, silent, beautiful in its cruelty. It said everything I never needed to scream. You lost. I rose. And now, I don't even see you. They wanted to be the storm that drowned me. But I became the calm they couldn't shake. They wanted to haunt me, but now I am the ghost. I walk past them like smoke, untouchable, unbothered. And with every breath I take in peace, their hate dies a little more. They say revenge is served cold, but mine is silent. It doesn't scream, it smiles, it thrives, it outlives, because I didn't need to burn them. I became something they could never defeat. Unaffected, unbreakable. Free. And the best part, they have to live with it. Live with the fact that I didn't fight back. I outgrew them. So let them sit in the ruins of their plan. Let them choke on the dust of what they tried to bury me in. Let them remember the day they thought they'd won. And all I did was smile. Because that smile was the funeral of their revenge. The last nail in their coffin. The mirror they can't look into. Let it echo. Let it haunt. Let it break them like they never broke me. And when they ask themselves why I didn't fall, why I didn't shatter, beg, collapse, let the answer be cruel, let it be quiet, let it be final, because I smiled.